play is the discovery of personal limits. As children, this is done without awareness or judgment, which is, on one hand, total freedom. On the other, possible danger. We need to embrace that freedom as adults when we're in a position to utilize sagacity as a guide. But instead, we often set too many limits before we even begin the journey.
Stuart Brown, who studies play. That's right, he's a play scientist. That might be the coolest job in the world. Discusses play as essential for our human condition. Not just for children, but for adult behavior and development as well.
Daniel Dombrowski writes about the ancient ideal of play as three categories: frolic, competition, and war. Now, what is he on about? Well, our brains translate play instantly as something childish, even immature. But the Greeks might have had a different idealized concept, which saw play as having these three faces.
If you say it's play, then you're just reducing it to the level of frolic. That's the view that some people have of play. Now, that is one sort of play, sort of aimless, frolicking play,
which we're about to make a case for as being essential to training, and is different but not less important than
competitive play, where you have some ironic distance on the play, that you realize that you are playing, that you are competing for victory or training as hard as you could on the one hand, but you want to keep it in perspective and not take it too seriously.
So competition as empowerment, where both competitors learn and grow, despite who wins or loses, seems to have disappeared in a flurry of endorsements, ego, bling, bad hair, or worse. Which makes our modern idea of competition more like the Greeks' third category of play.
At the other extreme, you could have play that is ultra serious, that verges on war.
Today, there is no balance between these three categories. Either you're childish and not taken seriously, or you're in battle, win at all costs, dominate, destroy, where winning is the only desired outcome. But competition should truly hold lessons for all competitors. Everyone brings their best with the intent to inspire the best in everyone.
Does anyone remember when competition used to be virtuous? Anyone? Remember?
After all, he enjoyed playing and he played his best. There's always a winner and a loser. Both should enjoy the game.
The Greeks saw athletic competition as part of a life of virtue. There's not a rigid separation between morality on the one hand and then athletic competition on the other. That you would participate in athletics with the hope that this would improve you as a person.
Let's remember how to be a good sport. Play fair. Play your best for the team or the group. Take the results well. These are the fundamentals of good sportsmanship.
If balance between these three categories is so important, and it is, then we need to find our frolic and not take ourselves so seriously. Since our culture seems to equate play and frolic as synonymous, let's consider them such for this episode. Heck, it's even implied in the root of the word, which is plaga.
The root to the word is associated with lighthearted activity, relatively aimless.
So much of fitness and strength training emphasizes the second two categories, ignoring frolic as something less than serious. But this element of play is the spark for our creative fuses, the kaboom of our inspiration, and the cosmic duct tape between physical and metaphysical, our spirits and our flesh packets, allowing us to shape our comprehension and appreciation of our bodies, our tribes, and our relationship with both. Yet the magic of this category of play is that these realizations are the sneaky conclusions of unconscious wisdom, since frolic is play without evident purpose, doing just to do, moving just to move, being just to be.
Animals and children get this. Adults? Forget about it. In fact, fitness and movement legend Bonnie Pruden calls our grown-up ability to forget how to play adulticide. Because when we deny our child self, we're killing our adult selves.
Well, that's some silly seriousness, but from a holistic standpoint, imperative to understand. So then, as an escape from adulticide, or returning to something, well, fun, what is play, really?
What the definition should be of play. is motion and imagination in unstructured place and time.
One of the best definitions of play I heard was, and I read so many resources, and I'm sure you do too, but it was from a 6-year-old girl on a British playground, and when she was asked what play is, it's what I do when nobody's telling me what to do.
Play is joy. It's moving around my environment and using my creativity in everything that I'm doing.
So I think play is very important because, one, it's irreducible. It's done simply for the joy and the pleasure of doing it. So I think we could all use a little more joy and pleasure in our lives because it sort of takes the back burner to accomplishment, quantifiable workloads, as opposed to just doing something because it feels good to do it.
How does this apply to our training? Our grown-up brains might find it too simple, complicatedly simple. Frolic is appealing to an open mind because it is a license to move freely.
So if we can approach things with the mindset of play, we'll get more accomplished because it will be enjoyable.
When you play, you bring a smile back in your life. It's really easy to get involved in all sorts of stuff that you're doing in your day, paying your bills and dealing with your bosses and everything else. And at the end of the day, you haven't smiled. I really think that play is important. And I think it's what keeps you young. I think it's what keeps you healthy. And when you do something like this and you play with other people, the smiles come back.
Does play always have to look so, well, childish? Nah. It can happen in familiar settings with familiar tools. It's all in the attitude. But without context or experience, it's easy to ask,
But what do adults do? We don't get playgrounds.
Adults get gyms, which are great, but often not sanctuaries of frolic. Gyms are usually made for the serious adult, where fun is replaced by obligation. Where can a grown-up go for fun?
Playgrounds like this are made for kids. Or are they? We're here at Shawn Park in Newberg, Oregon. We're here to play just like the kids do.
Improvised or organized, spontaneous or specific, gentle and relaxing or intense and inspiring. Basic, yet all-encompassing. Location doesn't matter, nor does the company. Yeah, simple, but simple isn't synonymous with easy. Frolic isn't the complete absence of purpose. It just feels like it is.
You wonder why you don't see kids with tension headaches and stress in the neck and lower back pain? It's not that they don't have stress in their lives, let's not make that mistake, but they have a tension release valve. It's called recess, playtime, movement. Let's look at the difference. How kids view movement as opposed to how adults view movement. A childlike approach to movement is very curious. It's exploratory, explorative, explorational, and it's very judgment-free. The fitness industrial complex is too adult, it's too clinical. It categorizes movement to be checked off the obligatory list. Cardio, check. Weight training, check. Flexibility training, check. But the body doesn't think or act or participate in the world that way. Adults are very structured in their movement. It has to be done at this time, at this place. It's also stressful. It actually adds stress to the body and to the life because we don't have, as adults, tension release valves. We don't have movement that's playful, that releases tension. So maybe the fitness industry's approach to movement is wrong. Here are some folks that just don't give a damn how the fitness industry presents movement. They're doing their own thing. Check them out. I'm here at Athletic Playground in Emeryville, California. This unassuming little building is chock full of recess.
Down at the station, the cops are making a deal. For information, they need some.
The idea is play We want to see people play as much as possible and go inside and move because it feels good and because you want to, and the ability to gain some skills and make art of it.
Don't even kid yourself that the cops don't know what goes down in the clubs after hours in this sleepy little town.
It's attempting to bring the element of play back into people's lives. Because when we're a kid, we don't think about like how we're moving, where we're moving, or why we're moving. We just love to interact with somebody and play with them, or maybe even on our own.
It's really serious this time around. You know that they're not joking.
That's a big part of the philosophy and the mission here, is like introducing adults to new movements. Because it was very much about connection and trust and working with somebody else and having it be like enjoyable. It's like PE for adults, you know, or recess. Totally recess.
Monkey conditioning athletic playground. Meet the monkey!
I dabble in parkour a little bit, but there's one move, a fairly beginner vault called a dash, which always makes me a little nervous. But around here, there's always somebody who can show you something, and so here's Andre to show me how to do it better.
Everybody's got their problems and we all do what we can, but I heard that someone's working undercover for the man. It's really serious this time around.
Later in the day, I made even more friends and we started talking about play, especially here.
Oh, it's super fun because, you know, I'm a grad student, so I need, like, my time to work out and have fun. And this place is perfect. Here you have a license to be silly. This is great.
About 10 years ago, after watching my first Cirque du Soleil performance, I thought, man, silks look like fun. So guess what?
I was my mother's son. Never left for the road, took my heart,
and I think there's lots of grown-ups that are really just kids. That's how I feel.
Yep, so do I. Big thanks for Julie and Christina for being my improvised silk instructors. And big thanks for Athletic Playground for, well, letting me play. This is Free Flow Academy in Rocklin, California. It's just a giant warehouse of stuff to play on.
Making it a point to point out the negative. It's a pandemic and we're all infected. Tapped out with no inspiration, millions waiting.
We try to offer as much as we can to other people's passions. If you're not playing and having fun in your life and using creativity, you're just not living.
Oh my god! That is awesome!
I teach on occasion at a training school called the National Personal Training Institute. I decided to show my students some options to the more traditional gym route, something that was more playful, something that was more ultimately beneficial in my opinion. So we decided to take a field trip to Free Flow. This is Kat, one of my students. Like me, she's sort of an adult. She's a former roller derby girl turned parent. And this is Kat's daughter, Lyrics. Like many sort of adults, Kat lacked movement in her life, but she still wants her child to be involved and inspired. So Kat's goal is to become that inspiration, to try some new things that are potentially dangerous. That might mean climbing on something you're not used to, or hanging from something you're not used to. And to show that it's not only okay to be scared, but overcoming that fear is what true human strength is. And sometimes that means letting your daughter spot you. Corey was very welcoming and decided to give us our own little class, taking my students as well as their children through a range of basic jumping and playing options, and then letting them have reign of the entire place. which included the foam pit. Although free flow appeals to children, guess who Corey thinks ought to be in here even more?
Especially parents. Sometimes they really want to play with their kids, but they don't know how.
My mom's
and
right there.
that's what we're here for. So I mean, help them throw them in there, yeah.
So where would we begin? Well, the fitness industry is dead set on making you believe that you need it. That it gets to tell you where to work out, that it gets to tell you with what tools, and it gets to tell you with what movements and how to do them. Well, history says not so much. I've got a story to tell you.
Well, in high school, I had a few friends and they were interested in acrobatics. So we came to the beach on weekends and we worked out in the sand.
About 80 years ago, a trio of physical culturists needed a place to play, so they threw a piece of canvas on the beach, and thus was born a homegrown, organic, and humble movement sanctuary that eventually became the greatest epicenter for strength and fitness this country has ever seen, and it earned the name Muscle Beach. But you can hear it from Huel.
It was one of the most famous addresses in the world. From 1934 to 1959, Muscle Beach was synonymous with health and fitness, beautiful people, and the California dream.
How did Muscle Beach grow to be so popular? Come on, hot people on the beach doing amazing things. It was wholesome. It was sexy. And here lies a dichotomy of both its importance in history and why it had to end. We need to remember Muscle Beach for two huge reasons. First, the spontaneous growth of a true movement culture that lasted for 25 years. Nothing to sell, nothing to buy, no industry to be part of. It was just intense play for the heck of it. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of people would flock here on the weekends to witness a strength party so impressive that professional acrobats, athletes, and Olympic gymnasts would come here to trade ideas and learn new tricks.
That there were so many traveling acrobatic groups who would realize, here's a free place we can go work out. And so there was this intergenerational, very diverse community that developed. There were pro wrestlers who would come down and all kinds of artists.
You'd see ice skaters and people that were with circuses and come down, and the old timers would show them new moves and pass it on.
Eventually a weight pit grew, and this also became a second home for many of the top bodybuilders of the day. But the true spectacle was muscle in action, movement art on display, which required skill and passion that was unrivaled at the time. And as a culture, it hasn't existed since.
Muscle Beach was the place to be and helped start the modern fitness movement that lives on today. Huge crowds gathered to watch men and women of all ages build human pyramids, fly through the air, and do all kinds of other acrobatic feats.
And here's a biggie. It was the first time the women were as iconic, if not more so, than the men, celebrated for being strong and athletic. And 3 of these women became the faces of the Muscle Beach culture. Paula Bolsums and Relna Brewer were both early Muscle Beach performers, and they went on to become stunt women. And the photogenic Abigail Pudgy Stockton, who wrote an important column for the popular Strength and Health magazine that is considered today to be a milestone in feminist empowerment, even if she didn't quite see it that way.
She was a symbol, and I think she is a symbol. Whether she wants to associate herself with the movement or not, she matters tremendously in terms of our understanding of what's humanly possible for women, and also that she created through her body a sort of vision for people that you could be strong and fit and feminine, but you could be all of those things and be a woman. She's complicated in a way. Where she differed, though, from what the modern feminists would want to say was, if you knew her as a person, she would renounce any kind of feminist approach to what she was doing.
Pudgy and Muscle Beach shared an ever-growing popularity thanks to the purity of amazing skill and the sensuality of exposed flesh. It was family entertainment that eventually came with a price.
It had this kind of sexiness to it, but yet it was family. And so that there was sort of a generational thing, but at the same time you could still go look at women in bathing suits and without feeling like you were some sort of horrible lecher.
With the growing number of new spectators and participants, good wholesome fun became more facade than reality. And the price was a series of unfortunate events sparked by the newcomers that led the city of Santa Monica to pull the plug. In 1959, the equipment was removed and the site shut down almost overnight. But innocent or exotic, the talent was undeniable. And no matter why people were here to watch, the performers were here for the love of what their bodies could do, how high they could climb, how far they could fly, the honest exploration of play.
There'd be two fellas throwing two girls, and we would have contests to see who would go the farthest.
So, you can't kill a scene like that.
They may have taken down the platform, but they couldn't kill the spirit of Muscle Beach.
A tribe that grew organically, with no ulterior motive but to play, these types of roots will often grow again. Today we think of Muscle Beach as the weight pit over in Venice a couple of miles down the road, but over the last 15 years or so, especially after Santa Monica decided to honor its history by installing new equipment, play has returned to the original Muscle Beach.
There was a time when all of this was torn down. The city had not been taking care of it. People had dispersed. There were a few people here and there were coming down, but for the most part, a lot of the impetus and the momentum had gone away. And the city came in and rebuilt it, and there were a few of us who started coming around and being open and sharing and like encouraging people to play with us, and that's sort of the gestation of what's going on now. So it's like it goes through cycles. There's really nothing new under the sun. Every generation is reinventing things, thinking that they've discovered the wheel. So I'm in a generation that has reinvented this, but it's been around for a long time.
Even the diehards will admit that the skills of yesteryear were far beyond the current abilities.
We try really hard, and I think we do some really cool things, but sometimes when I look at the videos and pictures of what they were doing back in the day, it's like we're just babes in the wood.
We're the only 3 people in the world that ever did a triple giant swing.
On the one bar.
3 of us going around. Nobody's ever done that before.
Also, there's another thing. Mo has the record of doing the most giant swings at one time, bare hand, no hand guards or anything. Over 50 of them, I think.
People would swing on the rings. They would do doubles and triples, flips, and land in the sand.
And fellas were doing tricks here, triple flyaways off the little rings, long before any place else in the world they ever did anything like that.
And people don't do that anymore.
Are these in a record book somewhere?
No, just among us.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good to know it.
But we remember it.
But with new blood and new passion comes new ideas. And the original concept of free, unrestricted play is still very much alive. No gym memberships, no infomercials, just come down and move.
This is my gym, right? It's my playground, but it's also my gym. I know that no matter what mood I'm in, if I come down here and I just wipe the slate clean, I will end up having a good time. I might very well learn something really cool. I might very well meet someone really cool. Or I might teach someone something really cool. And all of that's good. So I'll end up happier than when I got here.
Today, like the original Muscle Beach, you just show up. If you want to learn, someone here will teach you.
If you're a tourist or whatever, you can just kind of walk up and say, hey, what are you doing? And they teach you, and it's more festive and fun.
There's a large number of people, several thousand people around the world who count this place as some kind of touchstone in their lives. And there's several hundred people who live locally, who come down at regular intervals. Some people are here every day, some people come once a month. But the thing that we all have in common is that we all want to play, and we all have fun together.
There's no place in the world like Muscle Beach. There just was never anything where people got together on the beach and even in gyms to that informal workout. And just learning and helping each other and just having the comradeship that we had.
Huell Howser is a California TV legend. His show, California Gold, personifies that childlike wonder, that playful curiosity that influences my filmmaking more than I can ever give him credit for. I'd like to dedicate this episode to the memory of Huell Howser, as he passed away early last year. Huell, you're an unforgettable icon, and we miss you.